During your time in Compton, California, were you familiar with the Southside Compton Crips?
Yes, sir.
And can you tell us a little bit about the Southside Compton Crips?
Yes, the Southside Crips, they're located in the southeast portion of our city, and their area, they're one of our larger gangs. It's probably a half mile in every direction. There was an excess of 100 documented active gang members at the time, and they identified themselves by wearing the color blue. So when you contacted a Southside Crip member, he's going to have something blue on, a blue shoestrings, a blue rag, anything blue identifies him with being a Crip gang member. And also the Southside Crip members adopted the Seattle Mariners baseball cap. It's a blue cap, it had an S on it, and to them the S stood for Southside Crips.
Now, I'm going to direct your attention to specifically the mid-90s, 1995, 1996. Were you familiar with somebody by the name of Dwayne Davis?
Yes.
Were you aware, was he somebody that was a high-ranking person in that gang or a low-ranking person in that gang?
Well, as high as you can get, yeah.
Now, what are the different levels of gangsters in Southside, or just general gangs? Are there different levels?
Yes, there's definitely a hierarchy within the black gangs in Compton. There's really 3 phases that these guys go through. The first phase is the BG, or baby gangster phase. And this is the time when they're just joining a gang, and usually, most of the time, not all the time, they get jumped in. And by getting jumped in, you have to show how tough you are. So it probably lasts about a minute, maybe 2 minutes, where 5, 6, 7 gang members are going to try to beat this guy up, and he's got to fight with them to show how tough he is. And if he passes, he gets to join the gang. And these are the ages between 12, 13 to 15 and 16. And this is the beginning stages, so they're out there doing low-level crime, such as graffiti, selling drugs for the older gang members, and being lookouts.
And then is there a level above that?
Yeah, the next level we call the gangster phase, and that's from the ages from 15 to 16 to about 25 or 26. Now this is a stage where these guys do the most violence. They're the ones out there that are committing the drive-by shootings and murders and robberies and carjacking. What they're trying to do is they're trying to earn their stripes for the gang so they can get kind of respect within the gang. So this is the most violent time for these gangsters.
And then is there another level in the hierarchy?
Yes, the last level is ages 25 to 26 on up. And these are the guys that, a lot of them went to prison during their gangster phase, and a lot of them are getting older now, and they put in the work. They call it earning their stripes within the gang. They're getting their respect. Now they're the older gangsters. And these guys become the leaders or shot callers of the gang. And they tell the younger officers what to do. And again, they take this very seriously. If the OGs tell younger gangsters what to do, they do it without hesitation. If they don't, there's going to be severe consequences. I've seen all the way from severe beatdowns all the way up to murder.
Right. Now, in that hierarchy, so we have baby gangsters, just, what was the middle one called? Just gangsters?
Just
Gangsters, and then like OGs. Did you happen to know in the mid-90s where Dwayne Davis stood in that hierarchy?
Yes, he was a shot caller.
Your Honor, may we approach?
You may.
All right, so you're saying that Mr. Davis was a shot caller within the Southside Compton Crips.
Absolutely, yes.
And what does that mean?
Well, he could tell the younger gangsters what to do, and if they don't listen, like I just said, there's going to be severe consequences. The younger gang members are supposed to do what they're told without hesitation.
Now, were you aware of whether or not Mr. Davis was a narcotics trafficker?
Yes, he was definitely a high-level narcotics dealer. Compton, we were a small city, and we didn't have the manpower or the resources to go after a major narcotics dealer like Mr. Davis. But during my time in the gang unit, we were approached by two different agencies, the FBI task force, really, the DEA and FBI task force, and they would come to us because they wanted information on Mr. Davis's fellow gang members who he hung around with. And basically they would tell us that he's trafficking narcotics across the United States all the way to the East Coast.
Now, I want to talk a little bit more about Mr. Davis. Would you see him sometimes in Compton?
Yes, many, many times I've seen Mr. Davis.
And can you, do you see him in the courtroom today?
Yes, I.
Can you please point him out and identify an article of clothing he's wearing?
Yeah, he's male black sitting at the end of the table wearing it's either gray or black suit.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the identification of the defendant in this case?
It will.
All right, and how would Mr. Davis dress in normal, like, gangster attire, like you were talking about before, or would he dress differently?
No, in his later years after he became the leader, whenever I'd see him, he'd be nicely dressed. Have the brim hat on, and he wouldn't have anything gangster-like on. He was always well-dressed.
I'm going to ask you now about somebody by the name of Orlando Anderson. Were you familiar with Mr. Anderson?
Yes, I was very familiar with Mr. Anderson. I had many, many contacts with him.
Okay, and can you tell us how you first became aware of Mr. Anderson's involvement in gang activity, if such activity existed?
Yes, I guess you could say I was there for his initiation into the gang. My partner Tim Brennan and I, we were at a fast food restaurant getting something to eat, and we're in the drive-thru. And this particular restaurant was right adjacent to the Southside Crip territory. And there's an alley that runs just adjacent to it. So as we got our food, and we were driving out of the fast food restaurant, and all of a sudden we heard a barrage of shots. We can hear them hitting our car. Then I heard about 5 or 6 shots, right? So after the shots stopped, we looked at each other, jumped out of the car, made sure we were all right, and we ran to where the shots were coming from. And witnesses were pointing down the street, and I saw 3 male blacks running down towards a known gang hangout. So these guys ran in there. We called the troops. We subsequently arrested Orlando Anderson and 2 other people, and during their interviews they said that was part of their initiation. They didn't have to be jumped in if they tried to kill me and my partner. So they were automatically in the gang, and Orlando Anderson wasn't the shooter during this incident.
Was not.
Was not.
Okay. Now, were you familiar? Well, did Orlando Anderson, to your knowledge, have any relation to Dwayne Davis?
Yes, we found out that it was Orlando Anderson was Keffe's nephew. I'm sorry.
That's fine. And Keffe is what Mr. Davis went by?
Yeah, Keffe D.
Yeah, Keffe D. Is that kind of how you're used to referring to Mr. Davis?
Yes, I kind of know by their nicknames, really.
Okay. And then, were you also familiar with somebody by the name of Terrence Bubble Up Brown?
Yes. Had many contacts with Mr. Brown. He was kind of an older gangster, call him a wobbler. I still considered him in the gangster phase, but he kind of was a little older, too.
And I guess, in the mid-'90s, what phase or what level would you say Orlando Anderson was?
Definitely gangster phase.
And then, Did he go by any nicknames that you're aware of? Orlando Anderson?
Yes, Baby Lane.
And then, were you familiar with somebody by the name of DeAndre Smith?
Yes, DeAndre Smith, many contacts with him. Again, admitted to me, he's a Southside Crip member. His nickname was Big Dre.
Why was he called Big Dre?
Because he was a big man, and he was like 6'4", probably 300 pounds. He was a big guy.
Were you also familiar with a gang called Mob Piru?
Yes.
Can you tell us about Mob Piru?
Yes, they're a gang in the city of Compton, and they're located in the northeast portion of our city. Their gang used to be called the Looters Park Piru. That was their territory. In about 1975 or 76, a group of kids over there wanted to start their own gang and have their own territory, so they started at Mob Piru, which stands for Members of Bloods. Now, their area is probably a quarter mile in each direction, and there's probably 45 to 50 active gang members in this gang. Also, and they identify themselves by wearing the color red. So, and just like the Crips wore anything blue, the Pirus or Bloods wear everything red.
Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the flare-up between Mob Piru and Southside Crips, but even before any of the music or any of the particular 1990s issues that we're here to discuss, would it be fair to say that Mob Piru and Southside Crips were natural rivals?
Yes, the Bloods and Crips never got along since they originated way back in the early 70s. They're kind of like just natural enemies because one wears red and one wears blue.
Were you familiar with whether or not Mob Piru associated with any particular record label in the mid-90s?
Yes, Death Row Records.
And do you know who ran Death Row Records at the time?
Yes, Suge Knight.
And were you familiar with Suge Knight prior to his ascension in Death Row Records?
Yeah, we had contact with him before, but not many, because he really wasn't a gang member. He didn't really hang out, but he grew up in that neighborhood.
I'm going to ask you about some of the people that you would associate with the Mob Piru. Earlier, I think now it's last week, we met with somebody named James McDonald. Are you familiar with James McDonald?
Yes, very.
Do you recall what his nickname was?
Yes, Mob James.
Now, would you go to the McDonald house in Mob Piru territory?
Yes, Mob James's house was kind of like the main hangout for the Mob Piru, Looters Park Piru. He had two younger brothers, Buntry and Timmy Rue. So this was the main hangout for the Mob Pirus, and we would go there. If you wanted to find a Mob Piru, that's the first place you'd look. So we had many run-ins at this Mob James house.
And were you familiar with somebody by the name of Trayvon Lane?
Yes.
And actually published States Exhibit 60. Do you recognize the person depicted in States Exhibit 60?
Yes, that's Trayvon Lane. His nickname's Trey, and he's a member of the Mob Piru.
Are you familiar with somebody by the name of Roger Williams?
Yes, I am. His nickname is Neckbone, and he's also a member of the Mob Piru.
Now, actually, I think I skipped something with Trayvon Lane. You had talked about the three levels of being a gangster. What level would you say Trayvon Lane was in the mid-90s?
Gangster.
Okay, so like the middle, most violent level.
Yes.
And then with in the mid-90s, what level was Roger Williams?
Definitely gangster.
In the mid-90s, what level was Mob James McDonald?
I would consider him an OG.
And then in, you'd mentioned Buntry. Is that Alton McDonald?
Yes, it is.
And in the mid-90s, what level would you describe him?
Gangster.
And then are you, now in that neighborhood, same neighborhood, there was a person that lived there or grew up there named Reggie Wright Jr. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Were you familiar with Reggie Wright Jr.?
Very, yes.
And when you say very, how are you familiar with Reggie Wright Jr.?
Oh, he used to work at the Compton Police Department. He was a jailer, and then he went to be a full-time police officer, I think, in around 1988. He was only there for like 5 years because he got injured and had to retire.
Now, I'm going to ask you something, I guess, culturally about gang life. How important is one's reputation in the gang world?
It's these guys live for respect. That's how they live their lives.
And then, if somebody felt as though they were disrespected, what would you expect them to do?
They have to retaliate. If a gang member is disrespected, they have to retaliate, or they're considered a punk out in the streets. And if you get considered a punk out in the streets, you kind of lose your respect and credibility.
And what's the consequence of losing your respect and credibility in the streets?
Well, I mean, no, you're going to be nothing in that gang, really.
And then, we talked about the hundreds of murders that you've investigated and the thousands of shootings you've investigated. Was retaliation, in your experience, ever a motive for those shootings or murders?
Yes. I've investigated like 1,000 crimes, and I would say 90% of them are because of disrespect. And so when you get disrespected as a gang member, you can expect some sort of retaliation.
Now, you had heard gathering intelligence about this Lakewood Mall incident. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
But you weren't there, were you?
No.
And just so we're all clear, Lakewood Mall, is that in Compton?
No, it's several miles out of Compton.
And so that wouldn't be something for you to investigate?
No.
But as a gang expert and a gang investigator, what to you is the significance of somebody trying to rip off a gang member's chain?
Well, it's definitely disrespect, especially the chain that they were trying to take at the Lakewood Mall. It was a highly prized medallion, and these guys wore it like a badge of honor. So them try to steal this chain and beat up this subject, it would be a major display of disrespect. So now this guy's got to go back to the mob Piru and Death Row Records and tell them what happened. So the next time they see each other, it's going to be on site. As soon as they see each other, some confrontation is going to happen.
And you had said that we're talking about the chain. We're talking about that Death Row chain. Is that right?
Yes.
And you had mentioned that they were wearing it with great pride. By they, who are you talking about?
The entourage of Suge Knight. That's Trayvon Lane. Well, back in '95, Suge Knight gave these out as Christmas presents to his entourage, like just, Trayvon, Neckbone, Buntree. They gave one to Reggie Wright Jr. So not too many people had him at this time. So it was a prized possession to these guys.
Now, I'm going to take you forward to September 7th of 1996. You become aware of a shooting that occurs out here in Las Vegas, September 7th, 1996. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
How do you become aware of the shooting that occurred here on September 7th, 1996?
Well, I was at home, and I get a call from my boss, who's Reggie Wright Sr., and he tells me that, hey, Suge Knight and Tupac were just shot. Tupac's in critical condition, and get ready because it's coming back to Compton. He told me that they thought the Southside Crips were responsible for the shooting.
And so when he's telling you this, do you now have to have a response to this? Or why is he telling you specifically to get ready?
Because when you disrespect and shoot the biggest rap mogul on the planet and the biggest rap star on the planet, and he surrounds himself with the mob Piru, then there's going to be some sort of retaliation. And all these guys were from Compton. So when they got back to Compton, we expected a war.
And was there a war?
There definitely was a war.
Can you tell us about that? So in the immediate aftermath of the Tupac Shakur shooting, did you notice an uptick in violence in Compton?
Yes, 2 days after Tupac was shot was our first shooting. One of the OGs was at a store on Alondra Boulevard in Compton, and he was shot in the back several times, and a 10-year-old little girl got caught in the crossfire, and she was hit, and she was in critical condition. And the guy that was shot was a Southside Crip member, and again, he was a shot caller for the Southside Crips. His name was Darnell Brim.
Okay, and we've heard Darnell Brim's name before here, but was Darnell Brim part of the same subgroup of the Southside Crips as Dwayne Davis?
No, he was a Southside Crip gang member like they all were, but there was two factions of it. There was a group called the Burrs Crew, which Mr. Davis ran, and then there was a Glencoe crew that Darnell Brim ran.
And is it fair to say that at some point there was a conflict between the two groups that caused the factionalization?
Yes, they used to be one big happy family, but there was a disagreement over drugs, or some drugs were stolen from one of the Burrs Crew members, and that's when they split apart. They start fighting with each other, and they split apart into two different factions.
Now, in your understanding of gang culture, would Mob Piru, if they're seeking retaliation, would they be discerning about which crew or which part of the Southside Compton Crips they were shooting at, or would it just be you find a Southside Crip and then you start shooting?
Yeah, they don't care. When they go hunting for somebody, they don't care which faction he's from. If he's a Southside Crip member, or they're going to go after him.
Now, certainly that wasn't the only shooting that occurred in the immediate aftermath of the Tupac Shakur shooting. Is that correct?
That's correct. We had 3 murders and 10 attempted murder drive-by shootings that happened within a 10-day period in Compton.
And is that when, and were those shootings going back and forth related to Mob Piru and Southside Crips?
Yes.
So, I mean, you had mentioned earlier, there's 53 or 50 plus gangs in this 10 square mile radius. But during this particular heightened sense of violence, what was happening was the shooting back and forth between Mob Piru and Southside Crips.
Yes, but basically what it told me as a gang investigator right after the first shooting of Darnell Brim, to me there was no doubt in my mind that the Southside Crips were responsible, because the Mob Piru had to retaliate, and they had 54 other gangs to choose from, but they went right after the Southside Crips. So there's no doubt in my mind who was responsible for shooting Tupac and Suge Knight.
Now, as a result of this, in October, you and your partner Tim Brennan put together a multi-house search warrant.
That is correct.
And what was the purpose of this search warrant?
Well, we had two purposes, really. One, there was a war in the city of Compton, and innocent people were getting shot as well as gang members, and so we wanted to put a stop to that. So by hitting houses on both sides, both the Pirus and the Crips, and we wanted to quell the violence and try to stop it. The other reason was we wanted to try to help Las Vegas PD with their investigation of the shooting of Tupac and Suge.
And when you said you wanted to help the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department in their investigation of who shot Tupac and Suge, can you elaborate more on how you believed this search warrant might help Metro in its investigation?
Yes, the way we handle gang-related homicides is when we did the search warrant, we'd find a reason, hopefully, to arrest them. We'd find guns or narcotics in their house, and then we'd bring them down to the station. So you would have all the players that were involved, like that we heard about, that was involved in the shooting of Tupac Shakur. So we rounded them all up, and hopefully Las Vegas PD would come down and try to interview them, try to get one of them to cop out, or to try to put them in Las Vegas, whatever they want to do on their investigation of the murder. We rounded up all the people for them, so that's how we help them.